The first essay that you're going to write for me this quarter is a narrative. So in this case, you're going to be remembering an event. And please don't be deceived by how easy you might think narration is. Narration is actually one of the more difficult ways of writing because you have to have purpose. You have to have a reason to be writing what you are, and you have to have a main idea that is controlling the details that you give. So this really isn't just a time for you to sit down and tell a story, kind of vomit on paper and call it good. Your narrative and the event that you are describing for your reader have to be very specific. It has to be, again, controlled by a main idea so that your narrative has some kind of point. And without that point, your narrative's going to fall flat and it's not going to have any purpose. It's just going to be a story. So you need to have more than just a story when you write your essay. And the main element that you want to help control the narrative that you are writing is the reflection on it. So that should make more sense in just a moment. So the purpose, of course, is to help you apply the narrative strategies that you've read about in the textbook and that you've worked with in the course. You're going to use proper MLA formatting so that you can have your paper organized and look appropriate. This includes page numbers, margins, a correct font, a properly formatted title that is creative and engaging for your reader, a heading, so on and so forth. So all of the MLA elements that I've covered in the course need to be in place for this essay, and it will, of course, affect your grade if you don't. So if you have any questions about that, don't hesitate to let me know. Also, it's very important to note that you should not be using outside sources for this essay at all. You simply need to be drawing on your experience and your knowledge because it's an event that happened in your life. So there's certainly no reason to go outside to sources to add information. So it's not likely that you would do that, but I just want to make sure that you understand that this is all from you. So the main guts of the assignment, if you will, is that you need to write a 2-page essay that describes and reflects upon one specific experience in your life that is meaningful to you. So not only do you have to describe with very vivid detail, you have to reflect upon it and tell me how that experience changed you or affected you. And you need to do that throughout your essay, not just in one sentence in the conclusion. Too often I get that, and that's not the point. You need to reflect in every paragraph as you go. You're not telling a story and saying, oh, and this is what it meant to me. You need to have an introduction and a conclusion, and then body paragraphs in between. You need to introduce the story that you're talking about, and even if it's in general terms, you need to allude to the reason that you're narrating it. Then in your conclusion, you need to tidy everything up with some concluding thoughts. And again, you need to reflect throughout. And if you don't, it's going to affect your grade as well. So we will look at the grading rubric in just a moment so that you can see how everything's laid out in terms of grading. But you do need to understand that this is an essay. This is a formal college level essay. So you cannot just tell a story and be done with it. You have to have a beginning, a middle, an end. You have to have transitions. You have to have well-developed body paragraphs, everything that you would have in any other kind of essay. Just because it's a narrative does not throw out the fact that this is an academic essay. So make sure you have all of those things in place so that it is effective. Let's see here. Be sure to refer to Chapter 2 on how to craft your essay. I think that's all I really need to mention there. Just remember, part of it is describing and narrating your story, but the other part is reflecting. Lastly, I want you to make sure that the event that you choose to narrate is appropriate. Make sure it's, rated G. If Disney wouldn't read it, then I don't want to read it. That's usually my rule. So it needs to be rated G. Never really had an issue with that, but one issue I do get is things like hunting and things like that. I don't want vivid detail in hunting. Thank you very much. Not into it. Don't want to read about it. So just be really careful in the kind of topic you choose because you do have to go into detail about it. Also, try to be really meaningful about the narrative that you write. It needs to have a purpose. It needs to have a point, and it needs to have meaning. Don't just write about, oh, I went to the grocery store and I had a really bad experience and now I hate going to the grocery store. I mean, that doesn't make much sense. So make sure that it's appropriate, make sure it's meaningful and has a purpose. The audience that you're writing this essay to is somebody who does not know about you, does not know about the experience that you're writing about. So you have to be very clear and specific. You can't just leave your reader behind thinking, oh, well, I'm going to write this to my brother who knows everything about me. No, you've got to write it to me. I have no idea about the experiences you've had in your life. So don't write to me as your instructor. Just write to someone like me who wouldn't know you and wouldn't know the specific, this instance that you're talking about. So the way that this essay is going to be graded, it's going to be the same for every essay of the quarter. You're going to have 2 turn-ins. You're going to turn in a first draft, and then you're going to turn in a final draft. You've got 1 week to work on the first draft, and then another week to work on the final draft. Each is worth 16 points, and it's based on, again, the grading rubric that I'll show you in a moment. Each category is broken down into points, and then I will award you points based on where you're falling within that rubric. They're going to be weighed the same. So really, you're turning in the paper in the same way. You're getting the same points, the same weighted grade, things like that. They just need to be different drafts, and I expect them to be improved drafts. So your final draft in comparison to your first draft needs to be better. And when I give you feedback on your first drafts, I expect your final drafts to reflect that feedback I've given you so that you can improve upon it. So again, you're going to turn in each paper twice, with a first draft and a final draft. I will give you feedback on your first draft. You use that feedback to revise your essay and turn it in as the final draft. And then, of course, all of these essays go toward your final portfolio at the end of the term, which is worth 30% of your grade. So if you don't think that these essays matter, think again, because they do. In the end, you can compile them together to be your final. So you not only get graded for each draft that you turn in, you get graded as a final at the end. So here are the basic elements that I'm looking for in list form as opposed to the grading rubric. So I'm just trying to help you see them a little more easily. So your paper has to be 2 pages long. If it's not 2 pages long, it won't receive a passing grade. So make sure you do that. Also, your paper has to demonstrate vivid description and reflection throughout your essay. So make sure you have both of those in place. Your margins need to be in 1 inch. Have your heading, page numbers, title, and spacing correct. Make sure you're the right size and the right font. Make sure you have an effective introduction. You want 1 main point that is developed throughout your narrative, and then stay, of course, focused on that one idea. Don't deviate from that. Use transitions from 1 paragraph and 1 sentence to the next. Make sure your body paragraphs are developed appropriately. If your paragraphs are too short, that should be a red flag to you. If you go, oh, this paragraph's only 4 lines long, don't ignore that. That's an underdeveloped paragraph, and it's an organizational issue. So make sure that all of your paragraphs are organized appropriately and, of course, developed effectively. Make sure you utilize the strategies in chapters 2 and 14. Have a good conclusion, and then, of course, meet the standards of academic writing. In this case, you may use narration. In all the other essays throughout the quarter, you may not use narration, so this is the one time you may do that. You also may not use the second person form of you. So make sure you don't do that either. All right, so here's the nitty-gritty of the prompt. If you have any questions about it, let me know. Let's go over and look at the grading rubric. It's a little small, so there we go. This is what you're going to be graded on. I will more than likely attach this with the boxes highlighted based on where you're falling in each category. So there are 4 categories: content and clarity of ideas, organization and structure, conventions, and MLA formatting. For the most part, this is going to be the same rubric for every paper. The details, in these boxes are going to be different, based on each assignment, but you're always going to be graded on these 4 categories. The points are going to line up in this way. But again, the content in here is going to change. So make sure, I'm not going to go over this in great detail. You need to read it for yourself. But really, basically, you need to make sure you have a controlling point in your introduction. You need an introduction and a conclusion. You need well-developed body paragraphs. You need proper MLA formatting on your paper. You need proper syntax, grammar, things like that. And then, of course, you're going to be assessed based on where you fall. So read each box carefully. Make sure you start, I would suggest starting with the exemplary level and then reading down, because this is where you want to be. You want to be in the exemplary level. So if you think, if I write a narrative and I want it to be exemplary, what will it look like? It will be engaging and use strategy. Okay, it'll have strong reflection throughout. It will begin with an engaging introduction. Okay, I can do that. And then I have a main thesis in the first paragraph, and so on and so forth. So again, I'm not going to go into great detail and bore you with this, but this is something you absolutely must read. And if you don't, more than likely it's going to be a huge detriment to the quality of your essay, which of course is going to be a detriment to your grade as a whole. So give this some good attention, study it up a bit, and then make sure that your essay very much reflects what is outlined in this rubric. So if you have any questions about the rubric or the prompt, let me know. Again, this is going to be patterned for the rest of the quarter. So each paper is going to be turned in twice. Each one's going to have a grading rubric that's going to look just like this, just the details are different, and so on. So this is your first essay. Let's start off on the right foot. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to let me know, and we will go from there. So just keep me posted on how you're doing and how I can help.